And when luckily he comes to poise, he is interested in fresh, good foods. For example, fresh vegetables and fresh fruit juices, cereals, milk and milk products, and not preserved foods. Using plenty of water for wash and also for drinking. Water not mixed with anything but only water. And if possible, water not aerated. If you read the passages from the books of Alice A. Bailey about diet, etc., you will understand how a person of poise advises. And he eats only when it is time. Even then, when it is indicated by his constitution. Even if it is time, if he is not inclined to eat, because he has no appetite, he waits until nature calls him. He obeys nature. And he sleeps when he has to sleep. He never plays cards throughout the night, or does any important things in the club which are more important than his sleep. So he gives first prominence to his sleep, because his body is his faithful servant. It is serving him throughout the day. It wants some rest. It indicates to the mind calmly that it wants rest. That is the meaning of the language of sleep. So he takes a good sleep. What happens if he defaults for a long time? He is no more lucky enough to have a sound sleep. He begins to suffer from insomnia. And then he has to eat all sorts of nonsensical medicines. In the name of medicines, he has to eat narcotics once again. The sedatives and the sleeping pills, etc. Deceiving himself that he is sleeping. So, when once he touches the point of poise, he knows the difference between what he wants to do and what he has to do. The difference is very subtle. We are not inclined to think of this as long as we are not under the influence of poise, because we are not convinced of the truth when our mind is conditioned by one of the two qualities. Unless we are convinced, we don't feel the truth of it, though we have our own splinter of truth existing with us. This is the truth of understanding. We can understand everything, but we understand only under the spell of dynamism or inertia. And we advise others to have better understanding. Unfortunately, every one of us has his own understanding, different from others. We go on warning others to have better understanding of things. Lucky are those who have entered the quality of poise, because they can feel the mind that is beyond the three qualities. The fellow under the spell of dynamism cannot get out of the influence of the three qualities. So to the fellow with inertia, he finds his own way of doing things correct, and he rejoices in his own truth. the splinter of truth. He is rationalistic, no doubt. He is reasonable, no doubt. But his reason is conditioned by his dynamism or inertia. But the person who touches fire, then he will be able to understand that he is having self-conditioning. Until then, we do not like to accept that we have self-conditioning. Unless we accept that we have self-conditioning, we can never come out of self-conditioning. That's why we are expected to take certain steps in spiritual practice. You know the 8 steps of yogic practice prescribed by Patanjali? The first called regulation, the second called rectification. They mean only the same thing. A regulation means a regulation of dynamism and inertia, which results in poise. We are expected to practice the habit of harmlessness, truthfulness, non-covetedness. That is, reducing the tendency to possess valuable things and persons. You can use valuable things, but the mentality to possess valuable things is a disease. The law of nature goes in such a way that the less possessive nature you have, the more availability of valuable things in the world you have. It is a truth which never fails and which you never find an exception for. I repeat once again, the less possessive nature you have in your attitude, the more valuable things come to you to be used by you. You can verify, you will always find it correct. The more you possess the valuable things, the more useless they are, because they sleep at home. I may have best machines in my house, but I ask my children and wife only to enjoy. They have no time to enjoy, so the machines go waste. But suppose a person uses his machinery for public purpose. If the university had not allowed this room for us to use, then we had no opportunity to sit down here and speak. So the individuals develop institutions so that the mind begins to feel the public utility of valuable things. So goes the training received from nature. Nature gives us a mentality to establish public institutions. As we approach the quality of poise, and then we begin to make better use of the things we have. That is what happens when we begin to regulate and rectify our nature. And then mastery over sex life we are expected to practice in order to travel to poise from dynamism and inertia, and then practice meditation and grow passive to pleasures. Don't torture yourself not to have any pleasures, but let pleasures come to you. You don't prefer to go to pleasures like a dog. See how they come to you and they want you to enjoy. You will understand the law of nature more and more by practicing these things. And your attitude towards others changes. The spirit of service should be there in everything we do. Jalkol calls it charity. Charity does not mean taking $100 from the pocket and throw it on the face of Swamiji. Charity is an attitude which makes you positive. It removes the negative vibrations from yourself. Charity has nothing to do with money. Charity is an attitude which may sometimes include money also. But what is required in this practice is yourself and not your money or property. You are expected to submit yourself to pies. Do you know a so-called disciple of Jalkol who was discarded by him after many years? He wrote a letter to the master. I have given everything to you. I have donated much properties and monies. And he gives a list of what he has done to the society. And the master answers, we wanted you, not these things. And you have not submitted yourself. And you have submitted everything you have. Spiritualism is not commercialism. This is not what we want. We want you and not what you have. That is the answer of the master. And the advice was to wait for some time until he learned to know how to submit himself. So, we approach what is called the sacred quality pies. We begin to rejoice in the tolerance we have. We begin to practice unity in essentials, liberty in non-essentials. I can have my own way of dress. I have no right to ask my brother to wear his dress like me also, to give the same mold to every fellow on the face, or to ask everyone to dress like myself in the name of religion or spiritualism. Whatever is convenient to him, he can have as his dress. So, liberty in non-essential, but unity in essential. Wherever the attitude of life is concerned, we are expected to have a unity of attitude, to practice something in common, and that too a willing unity, a willing self-submission, and not an obedience without submission. It's highly dangerous to show obedience without the spirit of offering. See, the inevitable result is rebellion. Do you know why communism has been necessitated on this earth? It was due to the forced obedience without offering, self-offering. Religions try to enforce discipline upon us, whether we liked it or not. And the result is anarchy and lawlessness and disturbance. The whole society went into rebellion and confusion. Once again, we have drifted into dynamism, having no poise. The result is the inevitability of two global wars in the past. If we still want, it is there, a third world war. It all depends upon our own choice. If we find ourselves interested in killing and dying, there is the third world war. If we do not want it, there is no third world war. It all depends upon ourselves and not upon the planets, not upon the black or darker forces, not upon black magicians or Atlanteans. Leave off all fantastic theories which are cock and bull stories. Always remember that you are the maker of your own future. Your tomorrow depends upon your willingness to kill yourself or allow yourself to live tomorrow. There is no better truth. All other things are fairy tales. We are thinking of the world crisis. For the past 50 years, I believe that the humanity is talking of world crisis. As we go into the history of soothsayers and astrologers, the whole world was speaking of the world crisis for the past so many thousands of years. It is a mental disease and a delirium. Still there are people who believe that there is a crisis ahead. Just as there were people who believed in the past thousands and thousands of years continuously. Every time they speak of a destruction and a new age, it is only a mental symptom of the collective humanity. Always the new age is ahead of you, and always the old age is also ahead of you, and the evil forces are working before you whenever you want to think of them. The black magicians are working wonders as long as you are pleased to live like Macbeth. If you want to heed the three witches, there is black magic before you. If you want to believe in your own goodness and your own making your future, you have the white magic before you. Learn how to read and understand the book Treatise on White Magic. Excuse me if I point out, you have to read it again and again, because there is something which we have not yet understood from the book. The more seniority we have in reading that book, the more we are mistaken in understanding the book, because most probably we studied the book in our dynamism or inertia. Let us try to study once again after we have entered Pisces. And the science of yoga, as it is taught by Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita, gives us a clear-cut, scientific, safe procedure as to how to enter into Pisces. And when we begin to work in Pisces, we learn to understand that the mind is under the influence of the three qualities. We understand that our independent thinking is thinking self-conditioned. Our logic is self-conditioned. Our reasoning is self-conditioned. It would have been easier if others have conditioned us, but it has become very difficult because we have conditioned ourselves. Now we learn how to come out of the influence of the three qualities. We understand the littleness of our mind, and we understand the existence of a background mind which is beyond the three qualities. And that is what the masters call the fourth principle. One is matter, that is body. Two, ether, that is force. Three is mind. And the fourth, the background mind, which we call buddhi or will. The moment we begin to taste this fourth principle, we begin to understand the other three principles, standing above those three principles, not involved in the three principles. So, you can be beyond matter, force and mind. Still, your mind is working. That is what we call buddhi or the creative will. It makes way to the fifth, sixth and seventh principles. That is what is called nirvanic, paranirvanic and the mahaparanirvanic. Until we cross the third and enter the fourth, we will be covering the evolution spiral within the triangle. And when we begin to follow the scientific procedure given by Patanjali, then evolution has nothing to do with our coming out of the three gunas. You can come out to the background mind at will and observe the behavior of matter, force and mind. Steer them just as the driver takes his steering in the car. Make a better use of them. And then the evolution spiral stops, because the purpose is served. And nature is happy that there is the birth of one fellow into wisdom. That is what Buddha says in his teachings. He says, whenever a person is born into buddhi, there is the birth of another Buddha. That is what he says. And then the earth under his feet will have its hair stood upon the earth with joy, because it is sure that this fellow will lead a part of humanity into right lines once again. So, one Buddha should take birth from every one of us. That is what Buddha wanted. That means we enter into the background mind. Even poise is not the goal. We have to come out of the third quality also. But poise is more positive and more powerful than the other two, in the sense that it shows us the path to come out, whereas the other two qualities keep us under self-conditioning. And everyone has to study his own mind and body, try to find out the proportions of dynamism and inertia in him, try to find out the oddities of his own temperament. Some are too ordinate, too assertive and affirmative in their nature, and some are too emotional. Some are always busy to do something. Some lack in initiative. They are satisfied with the present conditions and they don't want to do anything. Some want to go down still backwards. Some want to live in their own paradise. So, it all depends upon the proportion of dynamism or inertia. If we have 100 units of dynamism and 100 units of poise and 100 units of inertia, we can make our own triangle by having 150 dynamism and only 50 of poise and 100 of inertia. Like this, everyone has his own pattern of the three gunas or qualities. And in this, each one of us differ from the others. This is what makes the temperamental difference. This is accountable for the psychological inequalities. And when we begin to follow the order of rectification and regulation, we will make our triangle equilateral. Reach poise soon. Live a poised life. Eat and drink and enjoy sex in a poised way. Find a sense of proportion in everything. A meaningful way of living. And then come out of the self-conditioning of the three qualities. This is what the ancients taught us about the three qualities. But it is a subject like an ocean, and many symbols also were given about the three qualities. The whole creation depends upon the activity of the three qualities. Creation is caused by dynamism, and destruction is caused by inertia, and existence is caused by poise. That is how the scriptures describe. The dynamism in the capacity of the creator is called Brahma the four-faced. That is the creator. The aspect of destruction is called Shiva, and the aspect of poise or existence is called Vishnu. That is, God has pervation. This is called the Trimurti aspect. Trimurti means the three heads that govern the creation. Heads, three forms. Heads, three heads that govern the creation. And in our body also, this activity of the three qualities makes its manifestation. For example, if you take the etheric body, which the homeopath calls the vital body, which the spiritualist calls prana, you have three whirlpools of activity going on. The one is dynamism, which produces destruction. That is the combustion activity in the constitution. For example, the action of oxygen and the action of the digestive juice. There are 24 centers where this activity acts. Unless there is a destructive activity, we don't have oxygen purifying the blood and the digestive juices digesting the food, and the food being decomposed to release the calories of heat required to the body. So it's not a mistake, it is correct. So dynamism produces continuous destruction of matter in us to sustain the body. just as paraffin wax is burnt in the candle to maintain the flame. And then the whirlpool of activity of inertia, it works out what is called materialization. That is construction of the cells and tissues. Then the third, which is called phase, produces the activity which we call pulsation in the matter created by inertia. This is materialization and this is pulsation. The first is combustion. You can call it combustion. Dynamism produces the activity of combustion. Inertia produces the activity of materialization. So every moment tissues are produced by inertia and tissues are destroyed by dynamism. And the existence of the constitution is maintained by phase by virtue of pulsation, which works as respiration and heartbeat, and the various aspects of peristalsis in the constitution. Peristalsis. This is how the human constitution is explained in the science of Ayurveda. Here also the base is the three basic qualities. The basis of self-conditioning of the mind is the three qualities. So for everything in the creation, from the birth of the solar system to the individual, every activity is traced to the threefold activity of the three qualities. And we are expected to follow the procedure through which we come out of the conditioning of the three qualities and then live a liberated life. Thank you all. Yeah. Yes, but here in the constitution it is different. The fellows changed their portfolios because the construction of the tissues requires physical law and materialization. So it requires inertia, because matter is to be precipitated and the combustion comes under destruction, without which we cannot live, and the phase comes under pulsation. So there is an interchange of portfolios here. Dietetics, you have to make a collection of the topic from many books. But if you want the collection under the heading diet, it is already done by one of his disciples, and the book called Ponder on This. If you take the heading diet in that book, you will find the various passages taken from all his books, beautifully edited with the cross references given. I think that is a better approach. Pardon? Yes, there is a book called the Master Index to books of Alice A. Bailey. I don't know if it is available for sale or not. Yes, if you go to, pardon?
It is for sale in the United States.
Sale?
Yes.
I see. They say it is for sale. If one has the whole set of Alice A. Bailey and that Master Index, one can do it for himself. I think it is better to have a copy of Ponder on This instead of doing everything for oneself. It is already done there. We can take advantage of it. I wish let us cooperate to go and join the company of the Dalai Lama. Excuse me if I am not agreeable to all, but let us cooperate and follow one path.
No, that's